Ever get that feeling like you're being sold something that's just too good to be true?
Mm.
Well, today we're diving deep into a story that takes that feeling to like an epic level. We're talking ancient Rome, snake gods, and one very convincing con man named Alexander of Abonoteichos.
What's fascinating about Alexander's story is that it reveals how these timeless principles of persuasion and deception have been, employed throughout history.
Our guide through this historical rabbit hole is the writer Lucian of Samosata, who gives us the inside scoop on Alexander's, well, elaborate schemes. Now, Lucian, he doesn't mince words, describing Alexander as handsome, charismatic,
Practically
radiating divinity.
Right.
Talk about a red flag, right?
Absolutely. It speaks to a key aspect of Alexander's success, his understanding of how to create a compelling persona. From the beginning, he was crafting an image designed to inspire awe and ultimately blind trust.
And he honed those skills early on, apprenticed under a traveling miracle worker.
Mm.
It makes you wonder, what kind of education program do you need to become a professional con man?
Well, in Alexander's case, it seems like a crash course in human psychology, stagecraft, and good old-fashioned trickery. He learned how to exploit people's hopes, fears, and their, deep-seated desire to believe in something bigger than themselves.
And speaking of believing, let's talk about the star of the show, the snake god Glycon. But this story doesn't start with some awe-inspiring deity descending from the heavens. Oh no. It starts with Alexander, a sleepy town called Pella, and a very important purchase: tame snakes.
Keep in mind, snakes in the ancient world weren't just, slithery reptiles. They held deep symbolic meaning, power, fertility, even healing. Alexander was tapping into a potent cultural current with this choice.
Smart move. So he scoops up these docile serpents, already picturing his grand scheme. But how does he go from owning a few pet pythons to creating a full-blown religious movement?
This is where things get really interesting. Alexander understood that to convince people of the impossible, well, you need an air of the theatrical.
Right.
He wasn't just going to, tell people he had a god. He was going to give them a show they'd never forget.
And what better prop for a show than a good old-fashioned goose egg? Although, knowing Alexander, I'm guessing this wasn't your average breakfast omelet.
You're right to be suspicious. This is where his genius for deception, honed during those early years, takes center stage. He plants a snake hatchling inside the egg.
Wow.
Imagine the delicate operation. And then strategically hides it at the construction site of his new temple.
Okay, so he's got the egg, he's got the stage. What's the next act in this divine drama?
He gathers a crowd, whips them into a frenzy with a passionate speech channeling gods, invoking prophecies, the whole works. Then, as if guided by divine intervention, he wades into a pool of water and retrieves the goose egg, presenting it as a gift from the heavens.
Yes. The egg conveniently hatches, revealing the baby snake god Glycon to the world.
Of course.
It's amazing what a little misdirection and some well-placed lighting can do. Precisely. But Alexander knew he couldn't just stop there. He needed to cement Glycon's status as a powerful, growing deity. So he introduces another layer of deception, one that plays on our perception of time and scale.
I have a feeling this is where that giant snake you bought earlier comes back into play, right?
Exactly. He simply swaps out the hatchling for the larger snake, showcasing it in a dimly lit room to exaggerate its size. Suddenly, the god everyone witnessed being born just days ago appears to have aged rapidly, a testament to its divine nature.
Clever. Creating the illusion of rapid growth. But here's my question. Did anyone notice that the snake god's head looks suspiciously artificial?
That detail wasn't lost on Lucian, who described it as being made of linen, painted and manipulated with horsehairs to create the illusion of a moving jaw and flickering tongue.
Hold on. A linen puppet. This sounds less like a god and more like something out of a street magician's act.
And that's the brilliance of it. He was using techniques that would be familiar to illusionists even today. By understanding the limitations of human perception, Alexander was able to create a convincing illusion of the supernatural.
So we've got a charismatic showman, a rapidly aging snake god with a surprisingly crafty head, and a crowd primed to believe. Sounds like the perfect time to set up an oracle business, right?
Alexander knew exactly what he was doing.
Yeah.
He sets up this whole system where people write their questions on scrolls, seal them up tight, and pay a fee.
Yeah.
A hefty fee, we might add, for a chance to consult the divine Glycon.
And this is where those seal tampering skills he picked up as a young apprentice really come in handy, wouldn't you say? I can almost imagine the scene. Flickering candles, whispered incantations, and Alexander like carefully steaming open those scrolls to get a peek at the questions.
Lucian actually goes into great detail about the methods Alexander employed, and it's surprisingly sophisticated. Heated needles to melt wax, special plasters to create, undetectable forgeries.
Wow.
Even a mixture of marble dust and bookbinding glue for quick hardening molds. The length to which he went to maintain this illusion is, I don't know, it's almost as fascinating as the scam itself.
Talk about dedication to the craft, right?
Yeah.
But it begs the question, what kinds of answers was he giving? Vague pronouncements, specific predictions?
Why?
Or maybe even some, ancient life advice thrown in for good measure.
It seems Alexander was something of a master of, playing the odds. Sometimes he'd offer these ambiguous pronouncements open to interpretation, while other times he'd deliver, shockingly specific answers, drawing on his early training in herbal remedies and folk cures.
Playing on hopes, fears, and the occasional head cold. Classic combination. But Alexander's fame didn't stay confined to a local audience for long.
Right.
His reputation spread, eventually reaching the halls of power in Rome.
And this is where things take a darker turn. Alexander, he recognizes the potential to wield his influence on a grander scale. He begins to weave his web, offering oracles on matters of politics, war, even natural disasters, preying on the anxieties of the Roman elite.
It's a reminder that even back then, information, or the illusion of it, was like a powerful currency.
Yeah.
And Alexander wasn't afraid to exploit that. But even the most elaborate cons, they can't last forever, right? What ultimately led to his downfall?
Ironically, it was a combination of his own vanity and an unfortunate medical condition. You see, Alexander, he took great pains to cultivate an image of, youthful vigor, including wearing an elaborate wig.
Okay, I'm already sensing this isn't going to end well for our ambitious con man.
You'd be right. When he contracted a severe leg infection, the physicians had to remove his wig to treat him, revealing a shocking truth. Alexander was, in fact, completely bald.
So much for divine intervention, right? I bet that caused quite the scandal.
It certainly did. But perhaps the most enduring aspect of Alexander's story isn't the spectacle of his, rise and fall, but what it reveals about our own enduring fascination with the unknown. Why do we so readily believe, even when faced with, overwhelming evidence to the contrary?
It's a question that lingers long after the scrolls have been resealed and the snow oil has dried up. Were we captivated by the illusion because, on some level, we wanted to believe? It's something to ponder as we navigate the ever-shifting landscape of truth and deception even today.